let's talk about some assignments that can help you learning more about yourself, helping you find stress busters that will help you, and helping you become more comfortable. So your first assignment is that I think it would be helpful for you to continue with your stress log, but I want to add another piece to it. I'd like you to add, at the end of the day, take a look at the coping skills that you were using and see how effective they were. For example, maybe you went to a movie with Marie. You checked out that coping skill. The movie wasn't so good, so that maybe wasn't a stress reducer, but being with Marie was fun. And that would be a +5. That's how much better you felt. So put a little more note just at the end of the day to be aware of some of your coping skills. Maybe you sat and watched some birds outside your window, and after that you felt a little bit better. That's a +2. You watched a TV program, and afterwards, it didn't make a difference. So it's a 0, neither here nor there. Maybe you reached out and talked to Carl, and he was in a bad mood, so after you got off the phone with him, you felt worse, maybe a -3. And then you can even make a note to yourself, Carl is often in a bad mood, so you might want to think about Carl. I'd like you to review your coping skills to see which ones were effective, which ones were overutilized, which seemed healthy and which may not have been healthy or even harmful. And you can take a look back at helpful and not so helpful to see where you were with this. The next assignment is that I'd like you to try one of those new stress reducing activities that we talked about in week 1. So here they are right here. Pick one, something that you haven't utilized before, and just try it for the week and see how this new stress reducer may be helpful for you. Another assignment I'd like you to try is taking a look at the coping skills, psychological, avoidant, instrumental, and notice which one you use the most. And I want you to try using one from one of the other categories. So if you tend to cope most often by avoiding, try instrumental, coping with looking for a solution, or maybe psychological, sitting with your feelings or talking to someone about what's going on with you. Try something different. Try a different coping strategy. Make a note in your log how that worked for you. So this last one is the compassionate observer exercise. So you remember that we were talking about thoughts that hurt and thoughts that heal, the negative schemas and the positive self-talk. And I told you that it was helpful for you to be aware of how you talk to yourself, your internal dialogue, your internal assessment or response to something. So this is the compassionate observer exercise. And I'd like you to try listening to this or doing it on your own at least twice this week, so you can begin to cultivate a compassionate observer inside of you. And if you feel like you already have that, then you can just increase it and just see how that feels. So again, you're not going to need to do anything. You can just close your eyes and follow along. And if you remember last time, at this point, I'm going to give you an opportunity to feel what it feels like right now and see if you want to adjust yourself at all so that you can feel a little more comfortable. While you've been looking at this online or listening to me, you may not have been positioning yourself in the most comfortable way that you could. So, without trying to fall asleep, still remaining alert, just check in and see if you can find a way that you can comfortably or more comfortably listen to me. Adjust something. And you've been sitting and looking at the computer screen. You don't have to look right now. So it's okay for you to just listen. As we go through this compassionate observer exercise. So I want you to think about something that may be causing you just a little bit of stress. Not a huge thing, but just a little bit. And just think about that for a moment. And you might notice as you're thinking about this, the response in your body. You might notice if there's a stress response. And you might want to just take a moment to breathe and relax just a little bit. Meaning, just take a moment to breathe and let your body open up just a little bit. Recognizing that you don't need your body to be completely involved in every thought that you have. So let's go back to that slightly stressful situation that you might want to think about now. And I want you to just listen. Not only listening to me, but tune in even more. Listen to yourself. And I want you to ask yourself, what is it that you're saying to yourself about this situation? Just allow yourself to listen. And let me ask you, are there some negative self-evaluations? Are you saying mean things to yourself about this stress? Just in a kind and gentle way, just noticing. What I mean by compassionate observer is listening without judging, noticing without judging. So are you making some of those statements that might trap you? Never or always, can't or won't. Anything that has a sense of being dramatic to you, a way of noticing this is thinking about it and asking yourself, is this coming from your inner adolescent, your inner teenager? As we all know, many teenagers express themselves in absolutes. That's how things feel when you're a teenager. There's a lot of nevers and alwayses. Think about this stressful situation and ask yourself, am I trapping myself with negative evaluations that I can't get out of? Or am I allowing for new idea, new thought? Just ask yourself. Notice if there's things you're saying to yourself right now that are helpful, or things that you may be saying to yourself that are not helpful at all. Just listen to yourself and experiment. Just try to see what happens. If you listen to that maybe very small voice that may be speaking not a traumatic statement, but the truth about the situation that is causing you some stress. Maybe the truth is it's difficult. If that's your assessment, see if you're making it more difficult for yourself, or if the way you're thinking about it will make it more tolerable or even a little easier. Noticing how easy it is to get caught up in the absolutes. See if you're being kind to yourself. Are you thinking, I'm dealing with this situation pretty well? Or are you thinking poorly of yourself? Being unrealistic with your expectations of yourself? Or the opposite, thinking that you're completely incapable, then you just couldn't. And if words like couldn't, can't come up, ask yourself, is it that I can't? I really can't? And I need to find another way? Or is it that I won't? I'm not open to finding another way. And if it is, then this stressful situation, if it's because you can't, you physically aren't able, or maybe you're mentally not able, then ask yourself, how can I make this easier for myself? How can I feel more comfortable? Just taking a moment to listen to yourself and really being aware of what your inner voices are saying about this situation. And are your inner voices helping you or keeping you stuck? Are they making it easier for you or harder? Your inner voices, your thoughts, the way you're thinking about it. Are you thinking about it in a creative way that helps make it easier? Or are you thinking about it in a way that's making it more difficult? Are you being kind to yourself? Or are you being cruel or judgmental? Just recognize the way you're thinking about this situation that's causing some stress. Is it making the situation more stressful or less stressful? And see if you can allow yourself to think about ways that it might be less stressful. And if you can't think of any way, that's when you might want to ask for help. Ask someone else if they have an idea, or maybe it's that you really need help. You could do it if you got some help. Or maybe it's stressful because you really don't want to do it and you know that you need to. And again, how can I make it easier for myself? What can I do to make this easier? So just allowing yourself to breathe now for a moment, and returning to this exercise at least one or two more times, either listening to me or on your own, listening to yourself. Just tuning in when there's a stressful situation with a compassionate ear, compassionate observer, observing the way you're handling stressful situations and just learning about, are you making it easier or harder on yourself? And you may, if you recognize that you're making it harder on yourself, say something mean to yourself about that. Now you get to have judgment about how you're handling stress, now that you have different ways to handle it. And I hope that you just laughed about that. Because wouldn't that be sad if you learned some wonderful things in the process of this program and then made it harder on yourself because you weren't utilizing all of them now? Recognize, are you being patient with yourself or are you being mean? And just a couple of times this week, or more if you can, stop and take 5 or 10 minutes to listen to how you're talking to yourself. Listen to your thoughts about a situation that's particularly difficult for you. And ask yourself, am I making this easier for myself or harder? So now you have the choice. You can, of course, keep your eyes closed. You don't need to open them. And I'm going to go on to the very end. So next week, you'll be learning more about how the mind affects the body. You'll be learning even more about coping strategies. You'll be learning about the benefit of mindfulness meditation and some mindfulness meditation techniques. So, I will be with you in the phone group where you're welcome to talk about your experiences with these assignments or to ask any questions that you need to about the program. So just allow yourself to relax and you will see that wonderful picture of the rocks and water again, allowing yourself to relax until we meet by phone. Bye-bye.